Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nelson, and we are going to be covering 3 segments as per usual. The first segment is going to be all about Victor Wembanyama and in his most recent game against the Toronto Raptors. The second segment is going to be a quick little recap of all of the other games that went on yesterday, because it wasn't just Victor that was the big story of all these games. And in the third segment, we are going to take a look at the MVP ladder and who the players that are in the top 3 are right now, given how Joel Embiid is out for injury. And because he's been out for injury, he's been ineligible to win the MVP. Therefore, he's going to be off the ladder, making room for other players to be in that MVP conversation. And as always, we also have a 4th segment, so stay tuned for that. But before I get into the first segment, I'd like to remind everybody, as always, to please remember to tip and donate to get your comments recognized. The link is in the description, as well as displayed below the ticker in every single show segment. The link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Puts your comments directly above on my screen. So once again, the link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And right now I'm just getting my windows properly set up. So with that, we can go into the first segment, which will be talking about Victor Wembanyama, and who, in my opinion, should be the number 1 favorite to win Rookie of the Year this year. And it's not even close. I don't even think there should be a race anymore. He's won it already. Assuming he doesn't get injured, that is the only thing that is stopping him from winning Rookie of the Year, is if he gets injured. And so far, he's proven that he can take a bunch of blows and that he doesn't get injured that easily. Hopefully, he won't throughout the span of his career, because I am a very huge fan of Victor Wembanyama. Just because I am a fan, though, it might seem like I have a bias to him winning the Rookie of the Year, but it's he really is that good. He leads all rookies in every single category that you could think of aside from assists. He leads in points, he leads in rebounds, he leads in blocks, he leads in steals. All of those stats except for assists, and that is absolutely insane. From a rookie to be able to lead your entire draft class in every single stat. A lot of people like to take away from that because he's 7'4", but that's not entirely his fault, because Chet is also the same height, and he's not doing what Victor Wembanyama is doing right now. Granted, he's shooting much more efficient, but I'll get to that in a second. But an interesting fact about this game is that Victor Wembanyama became the first rookie since David Robinson to record a triple-double with blocks. And David Robinson was also a number 1 pick coming from the Spurs, from the Naval Academy, by the way. So Victor Wembanyama, he ended the game with 27, 14, and 10, and also shot 10 for 14 from the field. So very efficient game coming from Victor. They played the Toronto Raptors. Not the best team, but then again, the Spurs aren't the best team either. And while they've been hitting on draft picks, stuffy nose, right now their roster as a whole is not where they should be, in my personal opinion. I don't know what it is, but it's these players, it seems like they're out to get Wembanyama. I don't know why, but a lot of the times there are opportunities that the Spurs have to give the ball to Victor. He cuts to the basket. Him being so tall, 7'4", and very difficult to contest, you can just throw the ball up in the air, and Victor will go ahead and grab it. And since he's very tall, it's no other defender can go up there and get it. So if you just throw the ball really high up and you make him catch it, he can easily just put the ball in for a dunk when he cuts and he gets proper positioning. It's just the team doesn't really do that for some reason. And it's not like they don't see him open. He's 7'4". You cannot miss someone 7'4" running straight to the basket. That's just, you can't. It's that simple. And I personally think the entire squad is jealous of Victor. Like, there are moments where he's wide open and he has wide open cuts under the basket, but the team is just reluctant to pass him the ball. And you might be questioning, oh, why would they be jealous of a rookie? Like, why on earth would they be jealous of Victor Wembanyama when they're in the NBA too making money? I have no idea why they're jealous, but this isn't the first instance where we've seen a lot of NBA players jealous of an up-and-coming rookie. Like, you guys don't like when I do this, but LeBron James, when LeBron James was a rookie and he was making his way into the league, and the media was constantly talking about him because it's this kid from Akron, kid from high school that has the potential to be like Mike or even better than Mike. A lot of people on his team, on the Cleveland Cavaliers, they did not fully respect him. They did not understand what the hype was. They all said he's just a regular rookie, and it's like they also said, I don't think one player can change the entire franchise. They were very, very wrong about that. But the sort of thinking behind it was like, why is all the hype going around this little kid? Like, how is he going to immediately change the franchise? And we see how he immediately changed the franchise. They kept giving him the ball, and he kept on producing. And with that in mind, it's like they aren't doing this with Wemby. And it's like, well, I mean, they are treating him the same way in the sense that, like, they don't understand the hype around that. Like, I'm not going to, like, accuse them of intentionally doing that, but it's definitely a possibility at this point, given how they play. Like, and these open looks that they get, it's like, it's impossible to miss. Like, you can't miss these easy looks. It's just, it boggles my mind. It's absolutely insane to me how much they miss him on a wide open cut. And with that in mind, like, even with this, like, even them still not giving him the ball, he still leads these rookies in every single statistical category. It shouldn't even be a contest. Similar to how I think that the MVP is going to be Jokic running away with the award right now, given how Joel Embiid is injured. I think that Victor Wembanyama is going to run away with this Rookie of the Year. And the only other rookie that has a really, like, an argument to sort of, like, stop him from winning Rookie of the Year is Chet Holmgren. And I also want to point out how a lot of the players that are winning MVPs and that are winning, like, most valuable players at their positions, they've been centers now. So the center position is definitely not dead in this league. So, but regardless, Chet, to many other people who don't like Victor Wembanyama, is considered to be the favorite for Rookie of the Year. He's second in the Rookie of the Year voting as of right now, and, like, the ladder. But the reason why he's in this conversation is because he is tall, similar to Victor Wembanyama, and his team, the team success that's surrounding OKC is much better than the team success that's surrounding the Spurs. The Spurs are dead last in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, OKC is in the running for the 1 seed in the Western Conference. So, with that in mind, a lot of people are taking team record into account and giving Chet the advantage. That's unfair, in my opinion, because the award says Rookie of the Year, not Team of the Year. And you also have, context is everything. You can't just look at a player and then look at his team record and be like, oh, he is the cause of that team and its success. Chet isn't even the best player on his team at this rate. And, like, you just can't argue someone who leads all rookies in every stat except for assists. Like, Chet is the only one close to him, but the argument for him being the favorite is because of team record and efficiency. That's like cherry pick stats, in my opinion. Like, picking him because of team record, he's not even the best player on his team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is second in the MVP ladder, which I will talk about later on in another segment. But again, like, he's not even the best player on his team, and the team is a very good team. And it's not fair, because try putting Victor Wembanyama in Chet's situation. I believe that Victor Wembanyama would do the exact same thing, if not better things, than Chet Holmgren. And if you put Chet in Victor's position, they'd end up being in the exact same spot. So you can't look at team record when you're looking at Rookie of the Year. You can look at it for most valuable player, because how do you determine a player's value? By how many wins you can get in the regular season. That is valuable. Like, that's an easy way to determine value. That's an easy way to decide who wins the award. With Rookie of the Year, you should only be looking at the player's individual performances, because a rookie can't control his team entirely. Like, a rookie has no sort of factors into how his teammates perform. He can nothing he does can affect how his teammates perform. I mean, granted, like, you do hear the stipulation that there are players that can make other players around them better, but that's not what we're looking for here. We're talking about the Rookie of the Year, and the Rookie of the Year is going to go to the rookie that gets talked about the most and can perform the best and produces the most. And the only other argument for Chet right now is that Chet is a lot more efficient than Victor Wembanyama. That I can't disagree with, because Chet is a lot. According to the numbers in the advanced analytics, he shoots a lot better than Victor Wembanyama. However, one thing that fans don't necessarily take that much into account is why he's shooting so much better than Victor Wembanyama, and I can explain why. Since I mentioned that Victor's team is not really the best, it allows Victor to, well, it's not necessarily allows, but like Victor gets a lot more opportunities to shoot the ball than Chet Holmgren does, because like I said earlier, Chet is not the best player on his team. Therefore, he is not going to be the one that ends up taking most of the shots. If anything, he right now is Shai Gilgeous's pick and roll buddy. And I don't want to be disrespectful in saying that, because Chet can definitely do things with the ball. He's a very competent ball handler. But in terms of how many shots he takes, he doesn't really take that many shots. He would only take like around like 9 or like 6 shots a game, or like maybe at most would be 11 shots in a game. And he'd shoot very efficiently by taking those many shots. But Shai would probably end the game with 20 shots attempts, and Victor Wembanyama would also probably end the game with roughly 20 shot attempts. So the fact that Chet is taking a lot fewer shots than Victor plays into Chet's efficiency, because Chet isn't being asked to take so many shots. Therefore, you don't take that many shots. You don't have the possibility of missing that many shots. So it makes total sense why his efficiency is much greater than Victor's, because Victor is being asked to do a lot more for the team. Like, the media sort of portrays Victor as this next rookie that's going to make a lot of noise in the regular season and is going to produce all of these numbers, and he has to be the one that has the ball in his hands, because like everyone views him as like the savior for the Spurs, with how like he's the next heir to like the legacy of David Robinson and Tim Duncan as number 1 picks for the big man. So with that in mind, he's going to be the one that ends up taking a lot more shots than a lot of the other players on the team. And right now he's taking a lot more shots than Chet. And that sort of plays into why Victor isn't as efficient, because he's taking more shots. Like, obviously, like if you take more shots, you're not going to be as efficient than if you were to take fewer shots in majority of these games. And especially with Victor and the shots that he's forced to take, because Chet and his teammates, since they have great chemistry, they set him up properly. So not only is Chet shooting the ball less, but he's also getting a lot better looks to score than Victor Wembanyama is. A lot of at least in the games that I've seen, a lot of Victor Wembanyama's points, they come when he creates them. A lot of the players on his team, they don't bother trying to create shots for him for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why they do that, but they do that, and it's infuriating, because it's like, just throw the ball up there. Just throw the ball up there, and he's gonna grab it with his huge frame, and he's gonna dunk it. It's that simple. But But I digress. With that, we are out of time for this first segment, so go ahead and tune into the second segment where I give just a quick recap of some of the games that went down, some of the most important games that went down, and I will be right back after this break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Thank you once again for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And we are going into the second segment where I'm going to give a quick recap. And right now, for some reason, it is not centered, which I will be doing right now. There we go. That looks a lot better. So, yes, we're going to be doing a recap of some of these games that ended up going down. But before I cover my recap, as always, I'd like to remind you guys, please, to remember to tip and donate to get your comments recognized. The link is displayed in the description as well as below every single ticker of every show segment. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. So once again, the link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And with that, we can go ahead and get into our second segment, which is going to be a recap of a lot of these games that went down. So I already talked about the result of the Spurs game and the Toronto going against the Raptors. The Spurs upset the Raptors, winning. I'm pulling up the box scores right now. They won 122-99. Obviously, I've covered the Raptors. You guys know how I feel about Scotty Barnes, as well as the direction of this team. I don't really see them going anywhere in the playoffs, nor do I see them making much noise in the play-in. But regardless, the Raptors definitely shouldn't have lost this game, given how bad the Spurs' record is and how bad the team actually is. If Victor Wembanyama doesn't produce ridiculous numbers like he did here. I mean, 10 blocks is insane for a rookie, as I've mentioned in the previous segment. And just a quick look at some of these other games. Right when I said that Philly hasn't responded how I thought they were going to respond, they end up finally winning a very big game against a very competitive team. They recently beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, who just moved up all the way from 6 to 3 in the NBA power rankings. So, huge win for the Sixers. Buddy Hield ended the game with 24 points on 5 of 8 from the 3, as well as 9 for 13 from the field. Kelly Oubre ended with 24 as well on 10 of 14. And Maxey ended with 22 and 9 assists. So, really big win for the Sixers in this one. They definitely needed this win. And Buddy Hield showed how he can remain an efficient three-point shooter. And I'm very surprised that the Pacers didn't utilize him as much as they did. Like, given how quick and fast-paced the Pacers' offense really is, like, I'm very surprised that this team didn't utilize Buddy Hield to the best of their ability. But it was a great grab for the 76ers, if you can tell. And, 24 points, he led his team in scoring. So, what more could you ask of Buddy Hield than that? And they ended up getting the win. Cameron Payne has also proven to be a valuable asset in trading for him in the scoring. They traded Patrick Beverley for Cameron Payne, so they replaced a defensive-minded point guard with an offensive-minded point guard. And it definitely makes sense because you're missing a lot of the offense from Joel Embiid. So with that in mind, getting Cameron Payne, he had 15 points in this game. So if you could have that consistency from Cameron Payne, I feel like the Sixers are definitely in a much better spot than they would be without those assets while they wait for Joel Embiid and him to recover. Great win from the Sixers. They all shot very efficiently, pardon me. And it wasn't like the Cavs were playing bad either. Donovan Mitchell ended the game with 36. Jarrett Allen ended with 21 and 10. Darius Garland ended with 21 and 9. And Evan Mobley ended with 14 and 10. So all of the starters were in double figures in this game. So with that in mind, it doesn't really change my opinion on either team and how far they're going. To me at least, I don't really think this win for Philly is enough to justify, they're going to be a playoff team and they're going to be fine when Embiid is here. And I don't think that this game is a panic button for the Cavs whatsoever. They only lost by 2 points. Obviously, the fact that they lost to a Sixers team without Embiid is not ideal, given how now they're competing to try to make the Western Conference Finals. So, but still, I don't think that now is the time for the Cavs to push the panic button on their roster. They've been on a roll, and these Sixers, they have to show me a lot more wins against a lot of these tough teams before I can officially change my opinion on the trajectory of both teams. I personally, if you guys haven't been following up with my segments, I personally don't think the Sixers are going to make much noise in the playoffs. I think at best they're going to be a first-round team, and at worst they are going to miss the play-in spot entirely. Now, as for the Cavs, I personally think that they're going to be competing, and they have the potential to make it to the Western Conference Finals, assuming they don't get matched up against the New York Knicks. Those are my standings on both of those teams. That's what I think the trajectory of both of those teams are. And this game doesn't change that whatsoever. The Cavs shouldn't worry about this game, and they should just just take this into account and move on to next week and try to win it again and try to go on a big win streak again. They're in a very good position, so this loss shouldn't be a big deal to them. It's just a bump in the road, is what I like to call it. And Philly, they play the Heat this Wednesday, tomorrow. So we'll have to see if they beat them. Then maybe my opinion on Philly will change. But at this rate, I personally don't think that the Sixers will have what it takes to beat the Miami Heat, assuming everybody on the Miami Heat is playing in that game. But that's just me. Another upset that happened was the Pacers losing to the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Pacers, they recently came off a win against the Knicks. However, there was no Julius Randle or OG Anunoby in the rotation. As you know, they're both down with injuries. So the Knicks were very short-handed in this game, in that previous game. So, but still, the Knicks were a very formidable team. And the fact that the Pacers came off of that win and then go into Charlotte and then lose to Charlotte is very, very concerning. Charlotte is one of the bottom-feeding teams. They're one of the teams that isn't going anywhere this season, and they have to build through the draft. And with the Pacers, with them coming off of a win against the Knicks, it's it doesn't make any sense. How could you go into this game against Charlotte and lose against a worse team? Grant Williams, who the Charlotte Hornets recently acquired in a trade at the trade deadline, he ended the game with 21 points and led the team to that win. He was the best scorer on that team, without a doubt. So this won't, again, this is one of those games that doesn't change the trajectory of either teams, but it does highlight how bad the Pacers defense actually is. How their defense can let up on any team in this league. And it's really, really bad. And it really shows how, if it weren't for Tyrese Halliburton and his bad offense this game, the Pacers would have won. Tyrese Halliburton, he shot 5 of 15 and only scored 13 points. And I said previously on my podcast, if you end with more shot attempts than you do points, you're ultimately doing a lot more harm to your team than good, because you're just giving the other team a lot more possessions to score. So I say this all the time about the Pacers. They have to have defense. And this game is a perfect example of what happens if their offense doesn't show up. Their best offensive player in this game was the only player who did not show up. And if he were to hit a few shots, the game would have been closer, and the Pacers probably would have ended up winning this game. But since he didn't, and since the Pacers' defense is lacking, the Charlotte Hornets were able to come out with this win. And you need defense to sort of fall back on it, and that's what the Pacers don't have. So it's putting a lot more pressure on Tyrese Halliburton, who now needs to be able to perform on the offensive end every single night, day in and day out, in order for their team to just have a chance of winning. And if the Pacers had defense, they would have been able to stop Charlotte in a lot of these possessions and prevent prevent Charlotte from taking a huge lead. And I didn't think that the Pacers were going to end up losing this game because their offense has been so consistent. But when their offense isn't consistent, any team can beat them, because they can't even stop a nosebleed at this rate. But I digress. This game is a perfect example of where the Pacers' defense stands and how bad their defense actually is, and the fact that they can just let up any points on any team. They need to get better on that defensive end. It's an absolute must going into the postseason. And in other news, the Bucks hosted the Denver Nuggets, and surprisingly, the Bucks ended up winning this game. So, congratulations to Doc Rivers. That's another big win for the Bucks against a very competent Western Conference team. Potential finals matchup, assuming that the Bucks can figure it out and make it all of the way. But it's a huge win. Might have saved Doc Rivers' job. You guys know I'm not a big fan of Doc Rivers or his coaching strategies or anything that he does with any of his teams. Not a big fan of it whatsoever, but still, this is a huge win. Just looking at the box scores right now, Giannis ended the game with 36, 18, and 5. And so he was the only positive, really, for the Bucks offense. Everybody else on the Bucks was sort of mediocre and didn't really take that many shots. I'm going to pull up the box scores here as well just to see the exact shooting percentages that everybody shot. But yeah, so far Giannis was the only real plus to this Bucks team and their offense. Dame went 6 of 15 with 18 points. Has been very, very inconsistent. And Bobby Portis also ended the game going 6 of 14 with 13 points. So very inconsistent on the Bucks end, but it didn't matter because the Nuggets were also a bit inconsistent, and they had the same pattern as the Bucks had. The only player that really showed up to play this game was Jokic. He ended the game with 29, 12, and 8, and everybody else on the court was exceptionally bad. I'm just looking at the box scores right now. Michael Porter Jr. shot 3 for 11 from the field with 11 points. Jamal Murray shot 1 of 5 from the field for 3 points. And Contavious Caldwell-Pope made 1 free throw. So the defense was really good in this game against those players. And they really did a good job in making sure that Jamal Murray did not get going. And that was sort of the difference maker in this game. The fact that the matchups, Giannis was able to outscore Jokic and Dame was able to outscore Jamal. Now, the fact that Dame did not shoot efficiently is a different problem in of itself, but he still was able to outscore Jamal Murray, and that gave them the edge to win the game in the end. Now, Obviously, Patrick Beverley coming to this team, producing immediate impact for the Bucks, as they've won 2 games with Patrick Beverley in the lineup. It's absolutely fantastic. They're playing some great basketball with Patrick Beverley. Great pickup from the trade. They desperately needed defense at that guard position because, I say this multiple times, Dame is a terrible defender. And when Dame is not producing consistently on the offensive end, you need defense to fall back on. It is very important. One of the most underlooked aspects of today's game is defense. And the fact that this Bucks team has that now with the players and with Patrick Beverley in the guard position is a very huge plus for them. And again, with this game, the Nuggets, if you're the Nuggets, you just have to play better on the offensive end. You cannot have Jamal Murray scoring 3 points. That simply cannot happen. And Michael Porter Jr., you cannot have Michael Porter Jr. shooting that inefficiently from the field. So really, it's more of a combination of the fact that the Bucks defense was good and the fact that the Denver Nuggets offense wasn't entirely there. Jokic was always there. He always remains consistent, but it's the rest of the team that needs to be consistent. And that was one of the things that made the Nuggets so formidable on their championship run. The fact that they not only had Nikola Jokic's production, but that they also had Jamal Murray's production to go along with it. Jokic and Murray became the first duo to drop a triple-double in the finals for a reason. And they need the consistency, not just from Jokic, but also from Jamal Murray. And if you get that from both of those players, the rest of the players will follow suit. Aaron Gordon's job is arguably one of the easiest in the league. Like, not to downplay on what he's doing, because he is a phenomenal athlete and a great player to do the things that he does. But Jokic sets him up for some easy looks, given the fact that Jokic gets double-teamed a lot in the post. So they have a very, very difficult offense to stop, and they just have to execute with a lot more efficiency. So again, I don't think the Nuggets need to panic. They just have to play better. They just have to be consistent, and they've shown the league that they can be consistent. Now they just have to do it. So not a big deal. And another game that happened, the Wolves just beat the Clippers in a massive blowout as well. I'm looking at the box scores. 121-100 was the final score. I might have been a little bit wrong about the Timberwolves and their chances of making a deep playoff run. This also might have just been a result of the Clippers choking, however. The Clippers only scored 19 points in the third quarter, and their defense had 40 points in the third quarter after being up going into the half. They were up by 5, so not a big lead, but still they had a lead, and they come into the second half doing this. And this isn't the first time that we've seen a Clippers collapse in the third quarter. We've seen it in the bubble where, again, in 2020, I've said this previously in a podcast, in 2020, Game 5 of the second round of the Western Conference Finals, they were up by 18 points. Game 6, they were up by 16 points. And in Game 7, with 4 minutes to go, they were up by 12. And in all of these games, they just consistently lose in the third quarter. Consistently. Like, every single time. They blow it in the third quarter. And the fact that they're doing this now, in the regular season, against a playoff team, a little bit concerning. Because it shows that it shows that they haven't changed whatsoever. And, like, I mean, I might just be me being harsh, like a little bit too harsh on these Clippers, but it's like, you have to close out. You have to go into the third quarter playing strong, and they just don't. And I don't understand why. And it's like, it's a pattern that this team has. Karl Anthony Towns and Ant, they had a great game, as well as Rudy Gobert. The Clippers, they did not shoot very well from 3, and their star players also shot really poorly in this game. Paul George had 18 points, but was 5 of 16. Kawhi also had 18, but was 8 for 17. Harden went 5 of 13 with 17 points, and Russ shot 3 for 11. So, with this in mind, Like, the Clippers, they absolutely cannot jump into the second half and perform the way they did. They cannot do that. They have to jump in the second half playing just as strong as they played in the first half. And this is a common theme that the Clippers have all the time. Every time they collapse in the third quarter or in the second half. It's every single time. And they cannot allow this to happen whatsoever. So the Warriors, I'm going to quickly cover the Warriors game. And the Warriors continue their winning streak, beating the Utah Jazz, who previously held a playoff spot. The score was 129 to 107. Curry ended the game with 25 and 10. Klay Thompson showed up with 26 points. Andrew Wiggins also ended with an efficient 17 points. And Draymond ended with a double-double, almost a triple-double, getting 12, 10, and 8. So far, the Warriors are rolling. They're in the play-in spot. And it doesn't look like they're going to blow up their entire roster. And it doesn't look like they really should blow up their entire roster. And so far, it looks like the Jazz are in a rebuilding phase with the assets that they got. So I don't think they're going to make the play-in anymore. I think Golden State is now going to hold the play-in. And they always have the potential to make a very deep playoff run. Houston also, they beat the Knicks after Brunson hit a game-tying shot that he accidentally fouled a three-point shooter late in the game, and that caused Houston to win by 2 points after he drained 2 free throws. Brunson ended with 27. Precious grabbed 17 boards. DiVincenzo had 23, and Josh Hart ended the game with 17 and 11. The Villanova boys have been rolling. As you guys know, as I said previously with the Knicks, they do not have to worry about anything. They aren't 100% yet. And Bojan also had a great game, scoring 15 points on 7 of 13. So once they add Julius Randle and OG Anunoby into the rotation, the Knicks will be just fine. Nothing to worry about whatsoever. But the rotation has been a little bit weak for the Knicks. But again, once the starters and once the main players come back from injury, this team will be fine. Houston has been playing a lot better in these recent games. So it's not time for the Knicks to hit the panic mode. The Rockets, they have very great players. They just have to mesh well together as a team. They have to find that chemistry. And once they do, they could end up being a pretty good team. I don't think the time is now for them to be a good team, but they could. And another game that happened was Dallas beating the Wizards. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jordan Poole were having a competition of who could build the biggest house because they shot nothing but bricks. Nothing but bricks in this game. Jordan Poole shot 1 of 12 from the field, and Tim Hardaway shot 2 of 13 from the field. So, obviously, Jordan Poole has been the exact opposite of what the Wizards were expecting from him. They were expecting some great production and a couple of wins, but not the second worst team in the league type of wins. And Jordan Poole hasn't been looking like half the player that he was on Golden State. He is dead last in box plus minus, as I mentioned previously. That means every single time that he's on the court, the other team outscores his team. That is really, really bad. And Kyle Kuzma is ranked second to last in box plus minus as well. Really bad. Really bad from Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is definitely not the third Splash Brother. He's not as good as what the media thought he was. And his mentality around the game is really the problem because he thinks he's the best, but in reality, he's not. And Kyrie ended the game with 26. Daniel Gafford has been awesome for the Mavs, getting 16 and 17. And I'm a bit surprised that the Mavs didn't end up blowing out this Wizards team, even with Luka getting a triple-double. He had 26, 15, and 11. So with this in mind, these players are playing great for Dallas, but I think their problem, again, is shockingly a poor defense because they should have been blowing out these guys in this game, but it wasn't a blowout in this game. The final score, if I pull up the box scores real quick, was 104 to 112 in favor of Dallas. So the game should have been, I feel like the Mavs should have won by a lot more. If they had defense, they definitely would have won by a lot more. But I digress. So far, Gafford has shown to be a very valuable asset to the team, and this Mavs team has a very good chance of making noise in the playoffs. Obviously, when you have Luka Doncic, you always have the chance to make noise in the playoffs. But With that, we are out of time with the second segment on the NBA recap. So go ahead and tune into the third segment where I go and I talk about the MVP ladder, and I'm going to have an image displayed to show you guys just exactly who's top 10 in the MVP rankings and what I think about these MVP rankings. So I will be right back after this break and after I go get a drink.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. A little bit of a longer break than usual. I apologize for that. I was getting a drink. And we are going to be looking at, in this third segment, we're going to look at the MVP ladder and exactly what players are standing in the top three now, my personal opinions on who I think would win, and who's in the top 10 and who could potentially make a jump into the top 3 in MVP conversations. So I'm going to open up the page right now. Just give me a second. And there we go. So now you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at right now. And so far, the MVP ladder as of right now, as you guys know, Joel Embiid recently succumbed to a meniscus tear. He missed way too many games and therefore is ineligible to win the MVP award, unfortunately. So now a lot of people think it's a little bit unfair because he missed games due to injury, and that shouldn't really be taken into account because now the Sixers are losing a lot of games. So it really shows the value that Embiid had with the roster, because now that they're without Embiid, the Sixers are in a much worse spot than they're in right now, and it shows that they desperately need Embiid, and that's sort of the argument for Joel Embiid and his MVP case, and why the 65 game requirement is a little bit dumb, and why a lot of these players think it's a little bit dumb, and they miss out on all NBA incentives as well. So with that in mind, I sort of understand the incentives part, but with MVP and the voting, you still have to, your best ability as a player is your availability. And the fact that you're not available for your team when your team needs it the most, can you really say that you're the most valuable with that? Can you really say you're the most valuable if you're not there for your team? But in my personal opinion, you can't say that you are the most valuable if you're not there for your team. But let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. Do you think that a player's best ability is their availability, or do you think that no, it should just take into account most valuable player, just who is the most valuable and who does the team need the most? So, looking at these rankings, I'm not surprised. Actually, I am a little bit surprised of seeing Luka in the top 3. I'm not surprised of seeing Jokic or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the top 2, however. As you guys know, I think Jokic is the favorite to win this award, and there's absolutely nothing stopping Jokic from absolutely running away with it. He is a triple-double machine. His team is a winning team right now. Last I checked, they were top 4. Again, they love the top 1 through 4 love flip-flopping between 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's a little bit difficult to keep up exactly where this team is standing, but obviously they're in the top 4, and they have their best player on the team, Jokic, gets a triple-double almost every single night. Just looking at his stats over here on the side, he's just 1 assist off of averaging a triple-double, and he very well could go another season averaging a triple-double as well. And a lot of the difference between his triple-doubles and Russell Westbrook's triple-doubles is that they bring so much more value to the team, in my personal opinion, because these triple-doubles directly result into wins. And some of Westbrook's triple-doubles, at least with his time on the Wizards, they would result in some losses, and it would just be seen as stat padding, in my personal opinion, because there would be several times where he'd end the game with more shot attempts than points. There would be several times where he ends the game with just as many shot attempts as points. But because he has a triple-double, everybody assumes that he has a great game. I personally, again, as I said this before, I don't think taking as many shots as you score points is good for your team. But Jokic, his triple-doubles not only do they happen in bunches, but they also happen with him shooting efficient, like him shooting very efficient from the field. So I think the efficiency, as well as being able to stuff the stat sheet, is the ultimate difference maker when deciding Jokic's MVP. Jokic deserves the MVP over somebody like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's averaging 31 points per game, 6 assists, and only 5 rebounds, but he is averaging 2 steals, and he's the only player in this ladder that's averaging more than 1 steal. So it shows that he does have the defense, but these defenses, like the stops that he can get, the steals that he gets, while they are valuable and they are a part of defense, rim protecting defense is still a much more valuable asset in this game, rather than whether or not you can get a big steal. Now, obviously, depending on when you get that steal, that's obviously very important. But most of the time, rim protection is seen as a lot more valuable. Not saying that Jokic is a good rim protector, but it is a much more valuable look on defense. And not only that, Jokic's numbers are just far better than Shai's numbers at the moment. I personally think that if the Mavericks can go on a huge winning streak, that Luka Doncic, who right now is surprisingly 3rd in the MVP votings, I feel like he could make some noise and potentially make it to top 2 in the MVP votings. And judging off of the previous seasons that Luka Doncic has had and where he ranks in the MVP voting, the big reason why he doesn't end up winning the MVP, he's always the favorite. He's always the favorite going into the season, but a big reason why he doesn't get the MVP is usually because of team success. The Dallas Mavericks end up being like a 6th seed team or a 5th seeded team, and they just aren't in the top seeds. If they can get to the top seed at this rate, I think Luka Doncic can make it into the top 2 and make the race a little bit more competitive, because Luka Doncic, he's averaging 34 points, 8 rebounds, and almost 10 assists. So he also can stuff the stat sheet and also shoot efficiently while stuffing the stat sheet. And it's players who can stuff the stat sheet that end up being the most valuable players now in this league, especially when it ends up to getting wins, which is why I'm very surprised that Giannis Antetokounmpo is ranked 4th in this ladder. Actually, given how they've been playing recently, I'm actually not that surprised that he's ranked 4th in the MVP ladder. But based off of individual performance and individual numbers, I am a little bit surprised because he averages 30, 11, and 6 with 1 steal and a block. The only one on this list, as I'm looking through it, that has the best defense. The only player on this list that is elite on both ends of the floor, and it's no contest. Like, you can make the argument that Kawhi Leonard isn't as elite on the defensive end as he was previous years. You could also make the argument that Jason Tatum is not an elite defender. But Giannis, Defensive Player of the Year, 2 MVPs, without a doubt an elite defender. And so, again, it's another aspect of the game that's completely overlooked. Jason Tatum is 5th in the ladder, as you could see. Obviously, Jason Tatum is going to be 5th because MVP usually goes to the best player on the best team. And right now, the Boston Celtics are looking like the best team in the East right now. So he's sort of on this list by default, even though his numbers are they definitely justify. And his games played. He hasn't missed any games. Actually, no, I lied. He has missed a couple of games. Pardon me. But he started in every single game, and he averages 27 points, 8 rebounds, almost 5 assists, 1 steal. So doesn't entirely stuff the stat sheet. And not only that, the Boston Celtics also have great players. He's not even the most paid player on his roster at the moment. So the fact that the Boston Celtics have a great team is definitely going to lower him in the MVP ladder. He has a chance to win it, but I don't think he's going to win it, even though the award goes to best player on the best team, but his team is just too good. Now, this one is very interesting. Domantas Sabonis is 6, and he wasn't even picked for the All-Star game. So he's ranked 6th in MVP voting, in MVP tracking right now, but he wasn't selected for the All-Star game? Like, are you serious right now? Really? It does not make any sense. I mean, he's averaging 19, 10, and 8. So again, another triple-double machine. So the players that stuff the stat sheet and can bring wins to the team are going to lead in this ladder. Donovan Mitchell, I'm surprised he's ranked 7th, but then again, Cleveland has been getting a lot of talk, so it does make sense how he jumps all the way up from not even being ranked to being 7th. Tyrese Halliburton, who is about to become who is very close to being ineligible. He's ranked 8th. I don't think he's going to win the award simply because he doesn't have the wins for it. Same with the people on the bottom here. Like, it's too late for the people in the bottom 6 to do anything to win the award. I think Jokic is going to absolutely run away with this. It's like, without a doubt, run away with this league with the MVP. No competition whatsoever. And I'm just changing the header right now because I did not change that previously for some reason. I have no idea why. But regardless, yeah, these are the MVP rankings as of right now. Again, Jokic is going to run away with this award whatsoever. There's nothing that anybody else on this can do to stop it. The only person that I think has a slight chance to catch him is Luka. But even with that, I don't think the Mavs are going to be able to get enough wins for Luka to be able to win the MVP award. So I think this is clear-cut. Jokic is going to win the award again. And with that, we are running out of time for our third segment. So we are going to go right ahead and jump into the fourth segment, which is going to be about my personal opinions on the All-Star Weekend. I don't usually talk about All-Star Weekend on this podcast, so I thought, why not give All-Star Weekend its own segment? So that's what I'm going to talk about in the fourth segment, so stay tuned for that after this short break. And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, we are going to be talking about, just getting the ticker ready. We are going to be talking about All-Star Weekend and my personal opinions on the All-Star Game and a lot of the other games that happened during All-Star Weekend, like the Rising Stars game, the Celebrity Game, as well as the competitions that go on during All-Star Weekend, the three-point contest, the dunk contest, all of that. I'm going to be doing that in one segment, and I'm just going to be giving my short little opinions that I have on the All-Star break and a lot of these games. So, as you guys might know, like based on how much I cover these All-Star segments, I only cover them when it's happening around this league, and I'm not a really big fan of the All-Star week. I'm not really a big fan of the All-Star weekend, like, whatsoever. Like, with this year, the only thing that I'm definitely going to tune into, like 100%, is going to be Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu. Right now, that's the only thing that I'm really looking forward for this All-Star weekend, because it's something new. It's something that I haven't really seen before. I've never seen an NBA player go up against a WNBA player in a three-point contest. Not to mention Steph Curry against Sabrina. Now, Steph Curry, I watched Steph Curry break the three-point shooting record in Madison Square Garden. So, the greatest shooter that God has ever made, in many people's eyes, that's the perception that he has. In many people's eyes, is going up against the WNBA player who broke the record for most points in any three-point contest. Now, that is a very exciting matchup to watch, and it is something new. And it's something that would drag a lot of people to want to watch this. Now, with the rest of the things that happen on All-Star break, I'm not a really big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of it whatsoever. And I'm going to dislike covering a lot of the events that happen, because they're just the same old events, and they're just boring to me. Like, we'll talk about the All-Star Game, since that's the highlight of All-Star Weekend. The All-Star Game, when it's East versus West, because that's the format that's going on, it's very boring to me. Like, there's nobody in previous years, in like the old days when it was like 2000, 2001, like in around the 2010s, it was a lot more competitive, and we would see a lot more players do a lot of flashy things, and that's sort of the only thing that the All-Star Game has going for it. But other than that, once we see the same like flashiness, like we've seen it all at this rate. We've seen what every player can do with the basketball. We've seen like the limits that a lot of these players can get to. And with that in mind, the game also turns into a lob fest. Really quickly. It just turns into like, let's see who can catch the most lobs, who can throw the best lobs. Recently now, it's been who can shoot the deepest three, which is a little bit more exciting than like watching a player like catch an alley-oop, because we've seen countless of alley-oops and countless of dunks. But again, like with that in mind, it's just so boring. And it's like, you see the same lob every single time, and it's like, all right, it's like, what are you gonna do about it? And not only that, but the games, they don't make any type of impact on regular season records whatsoever. It's just boring to me. And I feel like they should replace the All-Star Game with a big 3-on-3 tournament with all the All-Stars that are selected for the All-Star roster. I think that would be much more interesting to watch, because in 3-on-3 street ball, it's a lot more unpredictable, and a lot more players are going to get a lot more loose with the ball, and there's a lot more that can, and it could also bring a lot more competitiveness to to the All-Star weekend, because if your team wins, it could also show that like you could give the players incentives for making it deeper and deeper into these All-Star rounds. And the NBA likes to do some donations, so after every single quarter of the All-Star game, whichever team ends up winning the quarter wins a donation for their respective donation. So East will get its respective donation, and West will also get its respective donation. They can do that same thing, but with a lot more teams and a lot more players and a lot more different donations. So, like, they could get one 3-on-3 team to donate to one company, and then another 3-on-3 team to donate to another foundation, and another 3-on-3 team to donate to another one. So it gives a lot more options for for the donations, and it also gives a lot more competitiveness into the All-Star break and into the All-Star weekend, because who doesn't like a 3-on-3 tournament? And who wouldn't want to win a 3-on-3 tournament and prove that you're the best 3 in the league? I would personally I would love to see that. And again, with some of these other competitions, the 3-point contest, it's like we've seen it all. Like, we've seen it 1,000 times right now, like with the format that they've got and like the deep threes that they've added to make it a little bit more interesting. I really like that addition, but again, the only real highlight for this 3-point contest is going to be Steph Curry versus Sabrina. And I feel like there's not really much you can do to make the 3-point contest any more exciting. You tune in whenever you want to tune in. Now, the dunk contest has to be removed. Completely has to be removed. If we're not going to have all-star players dunking, if we're not going to have players that we want to see in the dunk contest, don't let it happen. That simple. Like, the dunk contest, it's very, very difficult to watch now, given how many dunks we've seen from a lot of these players. And there's not much creativity that could be thrown at you for a dunk, and a good dunk, at least. Like, we've seen all of the good dunks. We've seen East Bay. We've seen 360 no-looks. We've seen double clutch reverses. Like, what more can a dunker give to the game than the dunks that we've already seen? It's a lot to ask. And the fact that they have to bring up G League players in order to make the dunk contest a little bit more interesting is a serious, serious problem, in my opinion. It's an NBA dunk contest, not a G League dunk contest, last time I checked. And I guess this leaves us with the celebrity game, which is the other big event that happens. Now, the celebrity game, that definitely should be put into effect, because that is something that's fun. That is something that is very entertaining to watch, because a lot of these players that are on not the All-Star game, but the celebrity game, a lot of these people that are in the celebrity game, they either don't play basketball or they're surprisingly good at basketball. And it's like, it brings that sense of excitement where it's like you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, oh, I don't know what he's going to do with the ball. And like you could be into some laughs if some of the players aren't as good at basketball as they say they are. Like Drewski, who's going to be in the celebrity game. I think he's going to be hilarious to watch, because trying to see him run up and down the court, trying to see him be athletic, it's going to be funny to see. Same with Kai Cenat, because Kai Cenat, he's very, very short. So if he can ball out in this game, it's going to be really funny seeing a really short guy. It's like seeing Kevin Hart, who won the All-Star Celebrity MVP 4 times. Like, it was fun watching Kevin Hart go out there and hoop. It was fun watching a lot of these celebrities go out there and hoop, just to see like how bad or how good they are. And that's the fun aspect of the All-Star weekend. And like, that's what a lot of the competitions sort of lack. They lack actual competition and actual entertainment. And I actually completely skipped over one, which is the Rising Stars game. And it's essentially the All-Star game, but for a bunch of rookies who are playing really well. I don't see a problem with this whatsoever. It definitely brings... I actually am a lot more entertained with the Rising Stars game than I am the All-Star game, because of its unpredictability. Because I like to see like what these new players can bring to the table. Like, I like to see who in this draft class is going to be the most athletic. Who in this Rising Stars class is going to be athletic this year, and who is going to be the deep 3-point shooter. Who's like, I remember in one Rising Stars game when it was Zion and Ja Morant, literally mid-game they go into a dunk contest, and watching them attempt that, like while some of them have they missed a lot of the dunks. That was really fun to watch, because it was like, oh, are they going to dunk this? What are they going to do? What is he going to do? What's he going to pull out in this game? And we want to see those players in the dunk contest, but we don't get to see them in the dunk contest. So that's like one of the very few times where you get to see a lot of athletic players go for some flashy dunks. and I am all for it. I love the Rising Stars game. I definitely think that it shouldn't be removed whatsoever. It brings attention to a lot of these rookies. But with that, I do think the All-Star game should be removed. And it should be replaced with that 3v3 tournament. Like, there's nothing new that happens. Like, yeah, they introduced a new court, and, like, the new court, it's going to be a spectacle to see. It's going to be a spectacle, a spectacle to see, because, like, it's a new court, and we get to see, like, what sort of flashy little effects they get to bring onto the court. But it's really an afterthought when you think about it, because how often is the camera going to be panned on the entirety of the basketball court? Like, that's more of a thing that you have to, like, witness in person, I think. And the camera is going to be on a lot of the all-star players and a lot of the competition that's going on. So it's not going to be much on the court. So I think the court and the court adjustments, while they're cool, is going to be a little bit of an afterthought, because, like, again, the focus should be on the players. And that's really what the focus is going to be on in these all-star games and in these celebrity games and in the skills challenge, which is another competition that I just looked over. Because, again, I've seen it countless of times. They run through the same motions every single time. And there's nothing really new, and there's nothing really exciting about most of these segments about most of these all-star game segments. It's dull, in my personal opinion. But with that, we are out of time with the podcast, and we are out of time with our fourth segment. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so I remind all of you guys to remember to please tip and to donate to get your comments recognized. The link is in the description below, as well as displayed below on every single ticker. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, you guys, the viewers. Once again, the link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And that is the end for this segment. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review. It does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson. Have a wonderful day, and as always, take care.